everyone. Welcome to the beautiful Adelaide Hills. We're in Lobethal, in a very famous place, famous by all South Australian standard, but probably to all Australian, at UdderDelights with Sheree Sullivan, who is a big name in South Australia as well. But thank you, Sheree, for having us. It's cheese heaven.
Yes.
Do you spend a lot of time here?
I'd like to say yes, but no, I don't. But this is our cheese cave. Essentially, it's where the white mould grows. So so I always show people the start and how brie and camembert, almost start like, I call it a feta, a semi-firm, slightly salty cheese. And without the mould, you don't have the magic. And so as you sort of progress up the rows and you come up, you can see that you just get sort of this speckling.
Yes, it's stunning.
This speckling of white. Now this might take 5 days, 4 days.
Right.
And then you come up further and further and further. And this black, I've got to point out, this is truffle. This is not black mould.
Christmas is coming.
Yeah, because black mould is not good in white mould rooms. So this is white.
Of course.
And then as we go all the way up, this is this
Look,
downy.
So how many days are we in with that?
This was made last Wednesday.
Only a
1 week.
Yeah,
so
right.
it'll probably get another day.
And you're turning those cheeses
We are.
regularly.
Yeah, we're turning them. And then on this side, this is a little bit black because over here this is ash and white mould. So we've got a few different black things in here, but they're things we've added. So black ash and white mould, black truffle and white mould. So this room gets very, very full and everything's on wheels, so it just keeps pushing through.
So we have to tell everyone that is interested in the cheese business, and let's face it, who is not?
Yes.
You've been very prolific lately.
Yes.
I mean, you are now just to be seen fairly everywhere in Australia, and doing a good job at that.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
because
thank you.
Thank goodness for people like you. We have great cheese everywhere. But how many tons of cheese do you produce a day?
Okay. So I know people talk in tons or annual. We talk in litres per week. It's just easier for us to work out.
Per week.
We talk about litres per week.
So how many litres?
This coming week, we're set for 160,000 litres in a week. Now we work on about a 15% yield. So we're talking maybe up to 20 tonne in a week right now.
And the milk you are gathering only locally?
Yes, only locally.
Like Adelaide Hills?
Oh, Adelaide Hills, a little bit of Langhorne Creek, which is a neighbouring region, a little bit of Meningie, a little bit of Middleton, and that's to do with goat milk, organic cow's milk, but all conventional cow milk. My neighbour is one of our dairy farmers in Balhanna, so probably within a 20-kilometre distance. And we used to be dairy farmers, so it's really important to us we look after them and that they get paid fairly and all year round at the same price.
And that's key, isn't
It
it?
is key, because otherwise you lose your supply.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So when you say you used to be dairy farmers, I think it's an important factor because your mum and dad, they started the whole business.
Yes, they did.
They started making cheese, or only you as a...
They started as a goat dairy, and then within about 2 years, because they just couldn't sell the milk, they built a tiny little cheese factory, like the size of a tiny kitchen. And they worked full time in the city. They milked morning and night. They didn't know how to make cheese. They had a cheesemaker who made cheese for them for about 6 months. And I came on board and sold the cheese. And
how old were you there?
21. And Say Cheese was one of my first customers. And I'm embarrassed now. I think about it. I bought a yellow Hyundai Excel and I measured it to fit a car fridge in the boot. And I would rock up to Say Cheese with a plastic bag that would say Say Cheese, and I would deliver. And I would deliver the cheese in my little plastic bag and my little invoice. And so then within 6 months, the cheesemaker resigned. We didn't have anyone.
Of course.
I loved cooking. I loved food, and I just thought, well, as if I can't make cheese.
Yeah, of course.
Youthful naivety. So,
everybody could.
Yeah, so that's how I then became the cheesemaker 6 months in, and then gave my parents a 5-year commitment. I said, look, I'm going to do this for 5 years and I'll run the business for you. I'll be general manager, just sort of run it. And I said at the end of 5 years, I'll recommit or I'll look elsewhere for a job if it just didn't work. And that was 21 years ago.
Oh my goodness.
So, 21 years ago.
That is incredible. And what a massive transformation. And
Yes.
you look from a very
Tiny, yes.
operation
Yes.
to the huge operation you are
Yeah,
today.
I remember thinking, how am I going to process 1,000 litres in a week?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now you're hundreds.
Yeah,
thousand
hundreds.
upper.
Yeah.
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 Fantastic.
Yeah.
And so what's the most challenging thing for you at this stage?
I think in cheese, we work with a living thing, and we specialise in white mould, which, as you know, ripens. And I liken the ripening process to bananas, meaning you've got a green banana, it's young, chalky, acidic, unbalanced, but give it a few weeks and it's a black banana and really ripe.
Yeah, yeah.
With white mould, we're talking, 12 to 20 weeks, but we're constantly dealing with this living, changing thing.
Yeah. So, for instance, a good saying like here, if we had microvision, we would
Yes.
see a million little bacteria.
Yes, that's
So,
it.
so you're not too concerned about certain bacteria?
No, because it's all white mould. This is
it's all
all
the same.
penicillin
It's all the-
candida. While some might have,
Look at the fluffiness.
Yeah,
here.
some
Look,
might
it's
have-
so pretty.
so we do make blue cheese, but that goes through a separate wing.
Yeah. So the penicillium would be
No,
too
and
aggressive
we
here.
actually find that white mould tends to overtake the blue mould than vice versa.
Really?
Yeah, and that's not a
how
bad thing.
interesting.
Yeah.
What about the Brevilline and the
Yes.
wash rind?
We get a little bit of it naturally on blue. So blue often has bee linen or white around the outside. We just wipe it, that's fine. We every now and then use a little bit of geo in the white mould, a little bit of yeast, and we just use just enough. And it
Right.
tends to and geo's like the really wrinkly skin.
Yeah, so
but
that's
that can
really the go-to.
really overpower. So we just like to use a tiny bit because it just adds a bit of flavour.
So if you can see, obviously not here because it's very young.
Yes.
Those are made today or
They
no,
were
Monday?
made on Monday.
Right. And
Yeah.
so let's say organic, which
Yes,
means
organic milk.
Organic.
Yeah, so some of this will say goat, some will say organic, set days, some may even say double or triple. We don't need to say ash because we can tell, and we don't really need to say truffle, but
right.
it probably will say it because once the white mould grows, you can't see the black specks anymore.
So after those guys at the back there,
Yeah.
they're ready to go to wrapping?
They are. So they go out that door and they dry out before they go through that door to wrap. So we'll be able to go see the wrapping.
Yeah, because believe it or not, lots of this wrapping is done by hand. And
Yes.
I've always thought,
We've got
my
a machine and we've got a human machine.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it depends what cheese it is.
that's
As to
terrific.
where it goes through.
So shall we go and see whether the step before this
yes,
one?
yes, let's go see how it's made
Come and
to
have a
even
look.
get here. Great.
All right, so where are we here?
Yeah, so this is the start of the process. So this milk's been pasteurised. It already would have had all its cultures and mould spores being put in. So it will sit here, and then we're going to add our rennet to set it like a jelly. It's the closest thing I can, explain.
Junket.
Like a junket.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is I describe cheese making as taking the moisture out of the milk in the way that prosciutto or salami is meat without moisture. Cheese is milk without moisture, so we're naturally preserving it. But to do that, to get the moisture out, we have to set it to get the moisture out. So this is the first step. And then as we move up, you'll see it's all at varying stages.
Smells good. So there, the ferment and the rennet is there.
The rennet comes in now. The
Yeah.
cultures were already done in a large vat.
Right, okay.
So every batch of milk, we test for cream content because that determines the size of the cheese.
Of course.
So the amount of cream in the milk then tells us how much milk we should be putting into here to get the right size at the end, because we don't standardise our milk. We use the milk as it comes.
So that's experience, I suppose. I mean, it's so the seasonality is going to impact that.
Very much so. Yeah. So you can see in a minute, this is going to be cut into, and we'll be able to see the guys use the cutters on it. But the reason we cut the curve is we have to get this moisture out. So this is already cut. This is about to be cut. Are you cutting?
He's
Perfect
cutting.
timing.
Great timing. So how do you call that? You call that the...
A cheese cutter.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So it doesn't matter who's cutting.
Yeah.
The size will be consistently the same.
Yeah, right.
So there'll be another cut done now.
Must be so satisfying. Beautiful. And the size of this curd
Yeah.
is crucial, I suppose.
Yeah,
for
it is. So the cut size determines moisture level.
Yeah.
So the cut size determines how dry or wet this cheese will be in the end.
Right,
The
right.
next thing that determines that is stirring and agitating the curd. So we'll see over here, that was cut. You'll see all the whey is now coming out. And then as we come over more and more, and so I often describe that this is Miss Muffet on her tuffet with her curds and whey, and a lot of people haven't seen the difference between curds and whey. So curds being the solid mass that we need, whey being the $100 protein powder that everyone buys and doesn't realise where it comes from. So stirring gets moisture out of cheese. So cut size gets moisture out, stirring gets moisture out, and this is all about naturally preserving the milk.
But isn't it important not to rough the curd too much?
At this stage, because they've been stirred before, they're strong enough to hold up to this.
Right.
See how they're not disintegrating?
Yeah,
But
right.
when you do your first stir,
Oh, thank you. Yeah, beautiful.
when you do your first stir, they're very fragile.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
One more just on there.
Yeah.
See the first.
Yeah, so it's only because this is its second or third stir that it can
Right.
be, yeah. So this is the first stir.
First
this will be
stir.
more gentle.
So this one starts as worms and ends up as cubes.
Oh, look. Oh, you really want to.
You're going to be a bit more gentle with this
Try
one
that.
at the start for sure.
Yeah, right.
But you can see they're very robust. If this
Yeah.
was goat milk,
They would
it's a
disintegrate.
bit more fragile.
Yeah.
We've tried to make the blend between French and a bland Australian, strong French. We've tried to get in the middle.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we can take the palate on a journey, and eventually we feel as Australian palate gets more and more used to this style of cheese, we just keep making it a bit stronger. So truffle brie is a
Get
bit
ready,
stronger.
guys. I'm so happy to hear that
Yeah.
because I think the Australian palate is ready for
Yeah,
that.
and even with blue cheese, it's getting there.
Yeah,
bit by bit.
excellent. So happy.
So if we come over here, we're
yeah,
going to see.
that's so funny. That's the best part. And you're so lucky because I don't suppose a lot of cheesemakers have the luxury to have a machine like that.
So when I started, I was hand ladling. I was like scooping out a jug and putting a jug at a time in, and I was picking up 12 cheeses and turning them at a time. Oh, yeah. Actually, they're not too bad. But now, this is just, it's quicker. And, you know,
You
one
can say
of
that.
our values is make really great cheese, make it consistent, but try and keep it in a price point that people can afford, and this helps us do that. So, but of course, it was expensive equipment. So we get this from Germany. Yeah.
And not so long ago.
Yes.
All right, so Georgia, get ready for that because that's very, very impressive.
So in the way that a cake batter needs a cake tin, curds and whey need the hoops.
Ah, attention, attention, attention. Ooh! Wow. Look at that. Fabulous. And you probably waste a lot less as well with that, or more you reckon?
Oh no, it's to be about the same. We try not to waste, anything. The challenge is getting a consistent size, so the
Yeah.
guys have to get used to sort of topping up what they think's a bit low, or.
Yep.
But you'll notice on the floor,
The way,
all
yeah.
the way. Now
Where does it go?
we catch that in holding tanks,
Right.
and that goes to pigs at Murray Bridge.
Very good. Happy pigs.
From there, we're going to follow it up, and if we go now, no, they're going to turn in a minute.
Right.
But basically, if we come up this way, so you can see how it's pretty even
Oh, yeah.
now.
Good job.
And then this will keep draining, we'll keep catching the whey, Yeah, so we have a tanker that comes and picks up our whey and takes it out to the pigs, and they love it.
Do you sell it or do you
No,
give it away?
we give it to them.
Yeah.
Because at one point, we're paying to dump it, and we don't want to dump food.
Yeah, you were paying to dump it.
I know, it's crazy. So we'd rather it go and become a food source. So these, as we can see now, this is the cheese. It gets stacked on top of each other. And we must turn it upside down because you can see that it's a bit rough. And then by turning, we get a nice smooth side and we get even whey.
Right, so another expensive equipment, I suppose.
It is another piece of expensive equipment, yeah. You'll see that the turning occurs. So if you step back a bit, you'll see the whole wheel.
Oh, it's still by hand.
Still by hand.
Yeah. Where does it go with that?
This is now going to sit here. So, you know, we were wondering whether to wear jackets, and I said, no, the factory's pretty hot.
Yeah, it is.
This sits at around 25 degrees.
25?
Yeah, and these cheeses will sit warm tonight because cheese is milk without moisture, and moisture traps in cold. So we need it to be warm for the moisture to expel before we go on to the next step.
Okay.
Otherwise, there's just too much moisture trapped in this cheese. So this is pre-brine. So tomorrow morning, we're then going to salt them and we'll go to that next stage.
Those kids there, so they've all done today.
They might have another turn, but if they're being put in here, maybe the guys have finished their turns.
Yeah, yeah.
But this is putting them to bed pretty much until tomorrow morning.
No, little kiddies.
So
All right.
we'll go and have a look at, if it was tomorrow, what would happen to these cheeses.
Let's go and see tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are day 2 now.
We are, yeah.
So those little guys that's walking up.
That's it. So all those curds compacted, lost moisture overnight, and then we put them in their bath. So they've been to bed, they wake up, they have their bath, and so they're soaking in brine, which is a salt water solution, to get all their salt added. And when they've had enough time, they then get put on what we call ripening wraps. And
So how long is the bath for?
Oh, it depends on the size of the cheese. I might say an hour, but it really does depend on the volume. And then they get put on these racks, and that's where they can then go and start growing their white mould.
Nice.
So mould will only grow where there's oxygen. So that's why they need to be open racks as well. It's also why blue cheese gets blue mould on the inside, because we pierce oxygen tunnels.
Yeah, that's a different kettle of fish, different cheese altogether.
And so, yeah, they then get wheeled into the ripening room where all the white mould is grown.
Starting, okay.
Yeah.
And so that room doesn't matter. What temperature are we here?
Here is just probably, 20. The temperature doesn't matter so much here.
And so the brine, you keep the brine for...
We keep the brine for a set time, but it goes through a filtration process every week. And every day we must check salt levels. So brinometers go in and we always top up salt, and we're just running all sorts of tests on the brine.
All your white moulds are sharing that bath?
All white moulds.
Even the truffle?
Every white mould. Yep.
Oh.
The blue moulds get dry salted, which means rubbed. Our goat cheeses have salt in the milk. So every cheese has a slightly different process.
Oh, yeah, you see? I like that.
Yeah.
So after that, that's the room...
Yes. Yeah, so they grow their mould and then we wrap. So why don't we go see where
Let's go to the wrapping room, because that's a sensational place where there's a lot of human power here.
There is.
Wow.
Here we go. So if we come over here, we'll see the cheeses being wrapped by machine but labelled by hand. So if we come this way around, so you'll see we're feeding it through. It wraps it, and then we're finishing it at the end.
Oh, so it's wet. There's no mistake there. Wet, put in there, wrapped on. Look at that.
Yeah. Every now and then, the machine mashes it. That's the mash pile.
Right.
And then that goes to
lunch.
That goes to another business that makes cheese sauce from it. So we just try to look after all the waste.
So good.
So this is our labelling machine here.
Yeah.
It's
Best
6
machine
horsepower.
in that building, girls. Well done.
And then,
And that's suddenly the cheese takes a different, when you see that on the shelves, you
Yes.
have to think about those ladies
Yes.
there and the intense leather.
and then if you come over here, there is actually no machine doing anything, and we are hand wrapping this.
Wow.
Hello.
Bravo. Well done. Look at that. And that's, sorry, I'm not gonna. Superior handmade quality and hand wraps. That is incredible.
Yeah.
All that by hand.
All done by hand.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm quite good at wrapping Christmas presents now, as I'm sure all you are. Hi. Yeah, I just treat them like a piece of, because I wrapped for years, so I can wrap in my
It's a
sleeve.
funny shape too.
It
so
is.
look at
We
that. How
call
does she
this
do that?
we call this a
We
half
need to
moon.
learn. Oh, look at that. Oh mon Dieu. Yes. So easy.
They do make it look easy, don't they?
Oh wow. So how many cheese do you do an hour, for instance? Have you calculated that?
Well, I'll tell you, we cost on about one cheese every 30 seconds if it's being hand wrapped.
Yeah, look at that cheese, very
Yeah.
fast.
And that means weighing it to make sure it's the right weight, labelling, date stamping,
Yeah,
and
right.
putting it up here.
That's very impressive, ladies. Well done.
I tend to not stay in here very often because
Oh, no,
it is
it's awfully
so
cold. Awfully cold.
But, so this is
Wow.
where it sits, and when it's all packed and ready to go, it sits in here. So,
Okay, so Australia, we're good. Plenty of cheese coming your way anytime.
Yes, lots of cheese. We
Now
won't run
you
out
know
of cheese.
how it's been
Yeah,
made.
yeah.
It's going to taste even better.
Yeah, so let's go find something.
And we're going to prove it to you. The most exciting
Yeah,
part
we
of
get
our
to,
little job. We get to try
Get to
it.
unwrap.
Cute little triple cream brie.
Triple cream brie, and then I've got an ashed brie. So we'll see. They're made at the end of April.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
What?
do you know what? I've picked really ripe cheese.
That's a great opportunity to tell people that date is only a date you have to do by law, but
Yes.
it doesn't mean that the cheese is going to
So
kill you.
I did this by feel. So technically, these the best before was 2 weeks ago.
That's exactly when I eat my cheese at home.
But
so
I
it
wanted to
doesn't-
get something full flavoured and soft. So triple cream never goes as oozy as our single because of all the amount of extra butter fat that's in there. So thank you.
We need our French baguette there.
That's great.
See? That is the best time to eat that
Yeah.
cheese. Oh, it's so good.
It's amazing.
Full of flavor.
Yeah.
The creaminess it's very unctuous. And this character there. you
And
know, there's a
considering
real-
I literally just pulled it out of the cool room instead of bringing it to room temperature.
I love it.
And then this is our ashed brie, and this is going to be that little bit runnier. It's a bit squashier.
Good looking little wedge.
So we've tried to get to the point where it doesn't
Sheree.
run. You know, like when I say run, turn to water and be really ammonic at its best before. We want it to be like this at its best before.
Oh, that is terrific. And honestly, I'm glad we do that because this idea of this life in cheese is so like it's really
It's a guide,
it's a guide.
and best before means we think it's best before this date, but we could be wrong.
It's
And
only what you're ready to take as a challenge. For us, there's always best after in
Yep.
many
Yep.
cases.
So when I pick cheese, I feel it and I squeeze it like a fig or a peach, and that sort of tells me, can I eat it today, or am I waiting a few days or a few weeks or a few months?
Totally fair. That's what I do too. Although in Australia, I sort of gathered that you're not to do that too often, especially in a shop. But I reckon that's exactly.
Well, otherwise the cheesemonger does it. Like you've got to say to your cheesemonger, I want some really ripe cheese, and it's their job to squeeze it and find it.
Sheree,
Cheese.
cheers to that. Fabulous job. UdderDelights. It's fantastic.
Thank
It's
you.
been such a great opportunity. Thank you for opening your
Oh,
doors.
our
We're
pleasure.
very busy, but we really enjoyed it. Sheree Sullivan.
Thank you.
everyone. And we'll see you again very soon. Thanks
great.
for staying and spending a little bit of time with you. À bientôt. Cheers.
Bye.